There's no secret that we as Philadelphians tend to overreact sometimes when it comes to our sports teams, but last night's loss to the Brooklyn Nets in front of a sold-out crowd at the Wells Fargo Center and Ben Simmons' return to Philadelphia was a nightmare. I mean, they got absolutely boat raced. So I want to ask you this question before we get into today's show. Is the Nets' defeat concerning long-term for Philadelphia? Get into the comment section, type P for your panicking, AG for all good, it's early. You let me know, and let's recap that defeat right now. You're watching Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Senior. Happy Friday to all of Philadelphia. I hope you're cheered up following that loss last night. It was a disaster for the Sixers, and really it was ugly from the start of that ball game. Sixers getting boat raced by the Nets, and Ben Simmons' return to Philadelphia, and James Harden was not good. Small game James is what we saw last night, troubling considering the trends we've seen with him not showing up in big games. Final score of 129-100 in front of a raucous crowd in Philadelphia. Kevin Durant was masterful, 25 points on 10 of 17 shooting, 14 rebounds to go along with that. Seth Curry, he was really tiptoeing that sideline, hitting a couple of big three-pointers in front of that Sixers bench. Chips in with 24 points on 10 of 14 shooting and 5 steals as the Sixers were really just careless with the basketball. And Kyrie Irving doesn't play home games, but recently on the road, he's been great. 22 points, 5 dimes, and a plus 27. And the consistent theme for the Philadelphia 76ers, the big three, Joel Embiid, James Harden, Tyrese Maxey came up small. Embiid, 27 points on 5 of 17 shooting, got to the free throw line a lot, but not efficient from the floor. James Harden, only 11 points, 3 of 17 from the hardwood, his worst game as a Sixer so far. And Tyrese Maxey, this really was confounding. A big game for him, came up small and didn't shoot the basketball all that much. 4 points on 2 of 7 field goals. Now, obviously with James Harden, when the Sixers made this acquisition, we knew that sometimes he is a masterclass at the point guard position, but in big games and in the playoffs, he's had a lot of no-shows, and last night was one of them. So I want to break down the stats for James Harden, regular season as compared to the playoffs from 2013 to 2021, not including this year because we haven't seen playoff James yet. Regular season, 2013 to 2021. 29 plus points per game, nearly 8 dimes, 6 plus rebounds, shot around 44% from the floor and 36% from downtown. In the playoffs, though, points per game down, assists down, rebounds down, field goal percentage down, and three-pointers down to less than 33%. Now, the big takeaway, there is good James Harden and there's playoff James Harden. Last night at the Wells Fargo Center, we saw the latter. And the playoff shortcomings are something that we're going to continue to monitor as we get closer and closer to postseason play because James Harden has not been at his best when the magnitude is certainly high. I thought Kendrick Perkins said it really well last night. James Harden didn't bring his boxing gloves to the boxing match last night. And when you look at those numbers in the playoffs, yes, the numbers don't go down drastically, but there have been some brutal playoff clunkers from Harden in the playoffs, and then he's failed to show up in some of these big games. And really the stylistic change is certainly there for James Harden because the game does change in terms of the playoff style, and Harden's game isn't the same, and it's rendered a little bit more useless in the playoffs. Totally different game in the playoffs. The atmosphere is different. The physicality gets ratcheted up, and the intensity is totally different in the playoffs as compared to what it is in the regular season. And when the game does become more physical, James Harden isn't as an efficient player as he is in the regular season. There are 3 teams right now I think the Sixers should be concerned about come postseason play from a matchup standpoint. Teams are going to go up against defensively, and other teams having the coaching mismatch against Philadelphia. It's the Brooklyn Nets, it's the Boston Celtics, and it's the Miami Heat. Going up against the Nets really concerns me for the Ben Simmons baggage as well as KD being the most dominant player in the NBA. For the Boston Celtics, they've been playing excellent defensive basketball over the last couple of months, and they have 2 star-studded wings in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You do not want to play them over the course of a 7-game playoff series. And for the Miami Heat, lineup versatility, depth, and Eric Spoelstra by far and away the better coach than Doc Rivers. The reason why Philadelphians worry is that we have seen this before. We've seen the Sixers flame out in the playoffs and choke in the big dance. Doc Rivers has blown a bunch of 3-1 leads, and the Sixers, when the going gets tough, they grow kind of soft, and James Harden comes up short and grows kind of soft in the postseason. So that's why you're seeing the panic meter at an all-time high right now, even after just one game for Philadelphia. So with that, I want to ask you this. What is your level of concern with the Sixers? Scale it for me from 1 to 10. 1, it's too early. We haven't seen enough of James Harden in a Sixers uniform to be concerned. 10, what I saw last night, very, very concerned. You let me know in the comment section right now. Now, if you want to cheer yourself up, maybe you get yourself some nice Sixers swag by going to chatsports.com/LibertyBell. You can get this hoodie to my right now, available on sale today only for just $51. I'm going to put that link in the comment section as well as the description of this video. Look, going gets tough during some of this onslaught of the schedule, and the going got tough for the Philadelphia 76ers last night. There's no question about that, but cheer yourself up with some fresh Sixers swag. I'll put that link in the comment section and in the description, as I mentioned. Now, we talked about the negatives so far on today's show. How about looking at the Sixers on the bright side of things? It's only 6 games of James Harden in the lineup, and this is the first defeat with James Harden in the Sixers uniform when he's actually on the floor. Joel Embiid, over the course of a 7-game series and in a playoff series, can still dominate, and he can be one of the most dominant players in the NBA. Tyrese Maxey hasn't had a bunch of big game playoff experience. Yes, you can point to that second round series against the Atlanta Hawks last year as a series in which Tyrese Maxey was playing in raucous environments when really the intensity was there. But has he played in a game this big outside of that Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks? Probably not. And last night, Kevin Durant did KD things. He showed last night why when he's on the floor, he can be one of the most dominant players in the NBA and the most skilled offensive player in the league, in my opinion. He continued to own Tobias Harris, which is really a troubling trend because he goes after Tobias Harris anytime there's a one-on-one mismatch that he feels as though he can exploit. And Toby last night looked petrified in a big environment. And the Nets, is this sustainable for them to shoot 56% from the floor and 45% from 3? I don't think so. They shot the lights out last night. That's not really sustainable over a playoff series. Now, what James Harden said after the game, I guess, was somewhat interesting. He said, look, we got our asses kicked, and it was good for us to get our teeth kicked in because Philadelphia was rolling. They were rolling in a momentous fashion, 5-0 with James Harden in the lineup, and last night, they got punched in the face. Let's see how Philadelphia responds, and they're going to have an opportunity to respond on what is going to be a tough schedule coming up over the next 10 games. 13th, Sunday against the Magic. It's an easy game. I don't care how the Sixers play against one of the worst teams in the NBA. I want to see how they respond to this bad loss against some of the top teams in the association. They're going to have an opportunity to do that. Denver Nuggets, we're going to see a matchup between Embiid and the Joker, jockeying back and forth, 1 and 2 in the MVP standings. Another game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, who, look, the Sixers have played well up against, but the Cavs are a good basketball team. The Dallas Mavericks have been one of the hottest teams in the NBA over the last couple of months. That's going to be a really good matchup. So, too, is that game against the Toronto Raptors. And this slate right here, what are the Sixers going to be about? Do they want that smoke against the Miami Heat? Do they want that smoke against the Lakers, Clippers, Suns, and Bucks? I said this back last week, and the receipts are certainly there. We're going to find out what this basketball team is made of going up against some of the top teams in the NBA, and these are going to be playoff-level environments. The Sixers failed to show up in embarrassing fashion for the basketball team and the fan base against the Brooklyn Nets, but they can right those wrongs against some of these teams on the upcoming schedule. Before we head out of here, I've been giving shout-outs to those who give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram all throughout the week. Greatly appreciate the support. To see the channel grow the way it has over the last couple of months really has been awesome for me as a guy who grew up rooting on this team in the Philadelphia area. So if you want to give me a follow, a fellow Philly Bull, you can do so at Chase_Senior on Twitter and Instagram. It's the same handle on both. And while you do that, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Innovative, informative, consistent, fun, entertaining Sixers coverage, covering the latest Sixers news and rumors. And the comment section, allows you to vent out your frustrations following that Nets loss. So get that comment section popping, hit that big red button. We're going to continue to bring you the best Sixers coverage right here on YouTube.